Hello and welcome to Infamous, the audio podcast. This is Brandon, or Mutalis on Discord.
This is Jeremy, not Parker. Just Jeremy on Discord, not Parker.
And this is Aaron. I go by Treffenwood on Discord.
Not Parker.
Also, he is not Parker. For those that were confused, can we just do this accurately for one fucking time? Not Parker.
So if you're not Parker and I'm not Parker, are you Parker, Brandon?
No.
Where the fuck Parker?
He will be playing the part of Parker.
Okay, great.
No, because I'm here.
No, yeah, Parker's not here.
Yeah.
Fuck.
All right.
How are we going to fill an hour and a half?
That's true. We won't have somebody ramble on for 8 minutes when you ask them a yes or no question.
This is going to be like pulling out commercials. Like, we're sorry. This episode is only going to be like 15 minutes.
It's going to be straight to the point with no rambling and just concise.
God damn.
We might be done in 20 minutes.
We didn't start making people pay for this shit, did we? This isn't going to work.
No. Maybe that'll be Patreon level 2. Parker's not in your episode. I'll edit out Parker.
Oh no.
All right. For real, announcement time. Parker's not here. We're just going to start with giving him one probationary episode, even though I know that there's like several absentees we haven't actually punished him for yet. I guess one of those can just be how badly he lost the last bet. But so he's going to go up to 1,720 probationary episodes.
He just quit over that? Like, was it just too much?
He might have. I don't know.
It broke him? Broke his back?
Yeah. He's probably just spending this time valuably studying how betting works. I assume that's what he's doing with his free time. Anyway, unfortunately, we don't have any news today. I was really hoping we were going to get MODOK's tactics cards, but I guess that'll be next week. So, Aaron, do you have any recent news stuff in your... You play TTS. Segue.
Oh, segue. Sure.
Segue.
So I made top cuts in the recent TTS League, Season 10, or Season X, however you want to refer to it. I had my round of 32 game. So the way TTS works is everyone who has one or fewer losses during the league, of about 300 players, I think it's like 250 or so this season, they get to go to a singles elimination bracket tournament. So that singles elimination started this week, and I ended up playing Shadow Marble, or Matthew from the Gamers Guild, in the round of 32, and I won my criminals / spider foes into his shield. The link is posted on our Discord, MCP General, if anyone wants to watch the game. It was relatively interesting. I can provide more details. Go ahead.
Would you say it was a masterclass of gaming from your end?
God, no.
You did everything
I fucked the hell out
really
of the first 2 rounds.
Well to very well. Excellent.
I actually wanted to encourage people to not watch the video because it's going to show you in a bad light.
Okay. There you go.
But if you do want to watch the video, just take into account that Aaron doesn't think he played very well. But I'm going to post the link to the video in the show notes. So if you're listening to this on any platform, basically, just go to the details of the show, and it will have the link in there.
Yep. I'll just talk about highlights for 20 seconds. Matthew did a great, fantastic job, masterclass, if you will, of how to position his characters. It was Researcher, and I was never able to put Rhino on a Researcher the entire effing game because of how tight.
Would you call it a Matthew class?
Ooh, it was definitely a Matthew class, yes. So, super, super great job from him on positioning his characters. But I played into Shield with both Bucky and Commandos. Guess how many got your back triggers I gave him over the course of the game?
Zero.
1. I gave him 1.
Oh, that's amateur hour. No wonder you kept saying you were making mistakes. I now understand.
While dazing / KOing about 9 people, including grunts.
Ooh.
So it was all about target prioritization and power draining his important models. And then I gave him a grand total of 0 shield victory points through his affiliation leadership bonus.
Cool.
You do that by playing behind unintentionally, by the way. So
I was gonna, it sounds like you drunken mastered this one. Like you were like lured him into a sense of like, this guy's a moron.
How many aggressive moves did you give him though?
Aggressive moves? What do you mean?
Yeah, with the leadership, when he's ahead, he gets aggressive.
He had many triggers. He took 0. he had many opportunities. He had 4 guys on the researcher. He's like, "Would you like to move off?" He was like, "No, thank you."
Nice.
No, Dice really bailed me out. Obviously, I had to make some good moves to make those happen, but yeah.
Well, so we talked about how you thought you deployed and started the game very poorly. You had a bad plan going into the game. Do you think that was due to your lack of experience against Shield, or did you just misjudge what was going to happen in the game?
Both.
Okay.
He jammed every single model into the researcher and dazed the models I put on there, which forced me to abandon my side points and come fight at the researcher. And I played Kingpin, and Kingpin does not want to do that. Hindsight, I should have played Shadowlands instead of Kingpin, knowing he had to put people on the researcher. And Shadowland plus Spider-Woman would both have been not immune. Right? Martial Artist would have been more effective against all of his attacks, which were remarkably non-mystic. And I played Rhino on a scenario that had 0 extracts, so not playing to my strengths.
Who won priority?
I did.
And you chose blues?
I chose blues, yes.
Okay.
Because his blues were all very fighty. I just got stuck on Researcher, which was the worst of the possible extracts for me.
Yeah, I can see that. Did it seem like he had played the Researcher build with Shield a lot and had a hard plan for it?
He definitely executed the plan he wanted to. I couldn't speak to how often he had practiced that. But he definitely had a plan and executed it flawlessly.
But it seemed like he was practiced, you would guess.
Yeah. I mean, I expected him to sit rep up, say, Bucky, to shoot my people on points. Instead, he sit reps up Dynamo, and then just continues to bunny hop his models over each other to like get them all on the points while dazing my Spider-Woman. Like it was brilliant from him. Like he's got all his people on the points. Rhino can't even fit there, and I have a dazed model.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, this is really bad, and it was. I pivoted immediately to what I needed to do to win the game, and Dice, like I said, did not let me down / bailed me out.
Nice. Cool. Well, congrats on your win. Is it single elimination at this point?
It is.
So does that mean you're in the top 16?
I am in top 16. I will be going up against either Thanos or Malekith. Neither of which my list is optimized into, so
nice.
We'll see what happens.
How many of Parker's episodes are you willing to bet that you're going to just take this whole thing down? He has like 1,500.
He has 1,500? I'll bet them all.
Yeah. God, that's aggressive. That is aggressive.
Well, hold on. We might need to talk odds here, because the odds of you winning the whole thing. I'm sure John is rolling over in his grave right now. like what is happening? Okay, cool. Is there anything else you want to talk about for TTS? I obviously will cover your game next week as well.
No.
Okay.
So if anyone is interested, they can go on to Longshanks and follow along in the Season 10 Finals. I'm sure you can search for it and find it. There's TTS Season 10 Finals. And you can see everyone's lists, and you can kind of do your own kind of taking a look at what everyone's playing. I will say that it is relatively diverse. There are 4 Spider Foes players, for instance.
Is it locked in now?
It is. So, yes. Short answer, it is locked. They gave all the finalists a survey, whether they wanted locked lists and whether they wanted random pairings or they wanted a ranked bracket. And so of the 31 players who made up the top 32, there was a bye. They chose locked lists and ranked brackets. So number 1 played against number 32.
Which is the bye.
Correct.
Yeah, I would agree with both those selections. I think that's the smart way to do it.
So I would have greatly preferred non-bracketed, only because like I ended up playing against Matthew, who was in the exact same pre-cuts bracket that I was. Like we both came out of the Central. We happened to have not played each other during the Swiss, but there could be people playing people from the same brackets, like we just did, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I would rather.
Is that bad?
I think I would rather. It would be just like if you and I played at the first round of a tournament we went to. Like, that would suck. Kind of.
I mean, if it's somebody that you play a lot outside of the tournament environment, I could see that. But it just seems like in TTS that's so unlikely. But I could be wrong. That's just my initial impression.
Sure. You're not like completely wrong.
If I kept playing the same TTS person over and over again, it's like, yeah, okay, can I get some new people now? Like, but I'm a person that doesn't mind playing the same people. that much. Like if I get paired against friends at a tournament, it's more about, man, it sucks that one of us has to lose, more than it's like I don't want to play you. Like that's not the issue. So if you don't have like a relationship with the other person, I don't see how that's a negative.
You're not wrong. The real reason I didn't want it was because people could take a look and see who they were going to be playing and decide if that was a favorable matchup before they decided if they wanted that system or not.
That's fair. No, I agree with that. That should definitely be determined before, information is gained. That's definitely a fair point.
True. I knew I was playing Matthew before the bracket came out. Well, I can do math.
Right. But just looking at it in a clean environment, anyone who had an undefeated record or was ranked highly should be voting for bracket because that makes their road easier. And anybody who got a low ranking would want the opposite random pairings because you would have the hardest road. And so
you would think. Do you know who was ranked 30th out of 31?
I do not.
You don't. Jeremy, take a guess. Who would you not want? Yes.
It's Pat or Morgan.
It's Pat Dunford.
Okay. Yeah.
So Morgan's on a pause from MCP, but Pat won
I haven't heard him.
2 years or the past 2 seasons. But just based on how strength of schedule happened, right? He ended up everything from like 4 through 31 was all strength of schedule because they were all 5-1.
I mean, it's kind of semantics, right? Because anyone who's making top 32 in a 250 person tournament is going to know what they're doing. You don't get that far on random chance.
Right, which is why I just figured let's just go with random pairings with some finesse to where they don't put same bracket against same bracket. Because there is some, EPing is the wrong word, but like general rivalry. Like, I came out of the Central. I would love for the Central bracket to do well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if we're eating each other because we keep playing each other in the first round, then I don't know. I'd rather do some cheering for my Central buddies against, say, Europe or the West, whatever the case may be.
Sure. I would actually like to see for anyone who's familiar with video game esports, there's like the LCS for League of Legends, and they do like competitions of like different regions versus each other and stuff. So something like that could be fun, where it's just like we're actually doing like North America versus EU versus Asia or whatever the breakdown happens to be to make the numbers work.
Yeah.
That could be fun. Like we do Central, Eastern, Western, EU, and then other or something, Oceanic.
Yep, that's what they have right now.
Yeah, so something like that could be fun, and just do like a group versus each other, and that could be really cool. And so you could do bracketed, you could do randomized pairings in the leagues versus each other, and like do as many different lineups as you can, and then take like the top like 12 from each group, and then do a pool bracket or something. That could be fun.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll have more next week.
Cool. Make sure to record your game, and I'll post it on our YouTube.
Maybe.
It
will be streamed at some point. I'll post details beforehand.
Okay. Do they stream all the games in the finals?
They try to. I would say 80% of the top 32 games are being streamed. Once they go to the round of 16, which is only 8 games, I'm guessing they almost always will be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
My issue is next week I leave on Wednesday for Adepticon. So I've got to get the game in Monday or Tuesday, and if I can't, I forfeit.
Yeah, that's brutal.
So there's also other people who are traveling to Adepticon. So I'm hoping to figure out who my opponent is shortly and see if there's a time that makes sense.
Well, it's a bracket, so it's only one of 2 people.
Correct, and they played today. They just haven't uploaded their result.
Ah.
If they don't upload it tonight, I will reach out to both of them tomorrow and be like, which one of you guys lost? Great, let me talk to the other one.
That's probably you don't want to salt in the wound there on the day they lost.
So I'm not doing it right now, but
yeah, understandable. Or you could reach out to the commissioner or something, like, hey, I don't want to poke these guys, but I need to know as soon as possible.
I'll just poke them if they haven't uploaded it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So speaking of Adepticon, what is everybody planning on playing at Adepticon? I'm going to be taking my Brotherhood.
Just your standard Brotherhood, the painted stuff?
So I'm trying to get some new models painted. Life is not cooperating greatly, but it's not terrible either, so I'm making some progress. I got my Rhino painted, which conveniently was the one model I wasn't sure I wanted to play. And so, yeah. Wait, so I'm doing, I added in some new stuff, so I'm looking at Magneto, Hulk, Jugs, Apex Predator, Mystique, Pyro, Blob, Hood, Toad, Rhino. Currently, I think 2 4-pointers is good because it lets me not have a second 2 for like weird even point breakdowns. But I'm not sure I like, because it just feels weird having both Sabretooth and Rhino on the table at the same time, because Rhino is more of a scenario piece than an attrition piece, and Apex is kind of both, but he's really an attrition piece. So it's fine. Like, neither of them are bad models, but it feels awkward sometimes when you're like, okay, well, we're doing, let's say, 16 points. Well, what's my list at 16? I do Mags, Apex, Rhino, Toad, and that's just a weird lineup. As where, like, I don't know what else I would do. So usually what I end up doing is just taking Hulk instead of Rhino and Toad, which is, you know, a little scenario based, but mostly like I'm just at that point you just got to kill them, and it's been working, right? Like it's been very successful in my practice games, but eventually you're gonna hit a scenario where that's not a viable strategy. But also by taking Quicksilver out of the list and replacing him with Rhino, because they both have a steel card, I don't know what my like go wide list is. I have really liked Pyro and Blob though, like they've been a great addition, which I expected.
I think Rhino should be in a go wide list. Like he's good in both.
Yeah, that's fair. I definitely like him more in a go wide than I do in a tall list. So it's Mystique, Pyro, Blob, Hood are my 3s, so that's 12 points. At 16, I like Sabretooth in there, or Rhino, depending on the mission. And then you could throw in Toad at higher point totals. Like, it's been working. It just feels less, like, I don't know, it's just not having as many 3s has always been kind of an issue for me, because sometimes, depending on the matchup, you don't want to take Blob, or you don't want to take Pyro. And so that, like, you know, just makes it harder when you're like, well, and then sometimes Hood's not good, because Hood's really there to go in the, like, as the 3-pointer in a tall list. And so it's just odd sometimes.
Sure. Well, get some more practice, make some decisions. Yeah. It's a solid list. You're just tinkering at the edges right now.
Yeah, I feel like I'm missing like one key addition, and one change might take it from like good but clunky to really smooth. Jeremy, what you bringing?
I'm bringing the big guys.
The Sentinels?
No, sir. There is a Sentinel in the list, however. Sentinel Prime, but he's a different animal entirely. So I've been tinkering with this for a while. I think I've come with the thing it was hinging on is what is the staple models, and I was like, okay, Malekith for sure, and then what else? And I've always enjoyed playing Magneto, and the Brotherhood models just kind of slide in there with Apex being such a strong piece now, and Toad and Mystique. So you got a 2, 3, and a 4 now that I can put essentially Magneto, Malekith, and then add a 2, a 3, a 4, or another 5 in there and make any point totals. And the only thing I was trying to figure out was tactics cards, and I ended up just switching one of them, and I think it was what I needed to do. I took out Patch Up and put in Indomitable, because what kept happening is I'd be right on the edge of doing exactly what I want, and it would be one model being out of place because I was thrown, which would cause damage and also movement. Whereas Brace, sure, it saves you damage, but that's not what I care about. I have such huge pools that if I'm that down on health or whatever, then that's a different thing. But yeah, man, it literally is all gas, no brakes. Like, there isn't defensive elements. I've pulled out pretty much any card that's a defensive card. I
have also taken out Brace and started running Indomitable, because while it's a good card and it's always valuable, I find that when it's in my 5, there are a lot of games where it's not as good as you want it to be. Like, it's not worth a restricted slot, and because it usually ends up getting played for, like, to save 2 or 3 damage.
I have Smash, and I also have Magneto. So the things are getting thrown
throw
at
the
me.
Relevant terrain.
Yeah.
Right, so the people are the problem. Yeah. And I like the way Aaron plays it, whereas he plays it as I'm going to save an activation. Like, when it comes down to this model is getting dazed, if I don't play Brace, that's when I play Brace. It doesn't matter how big the throw is. And so I like that, but I find putting Indomitable in the list means that I only play it when my opponent has relevant board control. and which opens up more cards. And so with Brotherhood specifically, there's always cards. There's always more good cards. And that's what I've been finding is I get to play more of those cards, because with Brace, you can always justify putting Brace in your 5. And Indomitable, it's more of a strategic choice.
So I have, instead of that, I have Indomitable, and then I also have the one where you move power. What is that one called? I always get that screwed up.
R&D.
I have R&D as my other one, because making things live turn 1 is such a big deal. Magneto can always do it, but at a cost of he has to then perform something that I don't always want. But having R&D in there as well, like I'm always hot. Like everything is always available. I can do whatever I want to do. And I'm finding that the list puts everything into the opponent's hand. Like if they can't do anything to stop it, it just rolls over. And most of the time, most people can't. It's got Thanos in there. It has Hulk in there. It's got lots of tools. And I think I can go wide enough where it doesn't matter. Like, I think I can go 4 wide if I have to. But at no point, I can never lose priority. Like, that's the thing. So I always need to go 4 or 3 models deep, basically. And I really like it. It plays like I like to play.
Cool. Aaron?
I have no idea what I'll be bringing.
Of course.
What? I just finished my 10th game with Sentinels. So now I get to pick a new affiliation. I'm leaning Shield.
Hold on. Wait. You played 10 games with Sentinels, or you played your list with Sentinels in it 10 times?
I played 10 games using the Sentinel affiliation.
So, are you now using Cassandra Nova in most of your lists, all of your lists, some of your lists, or none of your lists?
Or almost all of your lists.
If there was a none option there, hit that button really hard.
There was a none.
Really hard. Hit it hard.
How about this? Were you surprised by Cassandra Nova? Considering she's one of the most maligned models of the entire game.
I think so. Here's my quick soapbox about my my quest so far. I've played 64 models. I will say there's not a single one of those 64 that I want to throw against a wall and melt down. There are some slightly below the curve, a la Clea and OG Red Skull, Cassandra Nova. However, there were games when Cassandra Nova was just the perfect answer. For instance, into Magneto. You're like, what do I do against her?
So dumb.
Throw against her. Oh, you can't. Do this. You can't. She's like, God damn it. Like, yeah, actually, she's pretty boss.
No, yeah, if your opponent doesn't have ranged attacks, it is a nightmare trying to deal with that. Because it's like, I walk you out of 3, what do? I walk back into 3 to hit you. Cool, I walk away and you take damage. And you're like, now what? And it's like, nothing. That's it. You can't kill her.
Nothing.
Like, a range 2 model or even a range 3 model can't do anything once they get, like, low on health. And it's just so frustrating to try and deal with it when she just runs the table late game.
So I do not think she is as maligned as... I think she is over-maligned. How about that? On the other hand, I don't think people should just be splashing her in every list. Let's put it that way.
Right. But, like, when the box came out, they were like, why are we getting Cassandra? And she's, like, by far the best model in that box. like far and away.
I haven't played Gene yet, so I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know.
So, let me ask this, though. With Sentinel's affiliation and her, does that make any sense at all? Like, what is she supposed to do for them?
She gives them more board control.
Does she? Can she even get forward and do her shit? Like, for them? Like, what is it?
Yeah. She's not slow.
I mean, she's medium, but...
Right, but she's average speed in the game. Like,
Yeah.
It's not like she's walking around like Crossbones.
So the problem is she has that 2 physical defense, which makes the entire team super weak to physical. So it doubles down on their liabilities.
Yeah, but she's also a model in that group that doesn't die when the Sentinel gets thrown into her.
True. She is power starved. I think she would be much more playable if she wasn't so power starved.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's got to either go off on her 5 dice builder or take a bunch of damage, and then it turns her options on.
Well, her 5 dice builder is a sap power mystic attack as
Yep.
well, which is a very, very good builder.
Yep. I think if I was to play her regularly, like and want to play her, I'd need exceptional healing, and I didn't have that in my list. I think that helps keep her alive.
I mean, her builder is literally just MODOK's builder with 1 less die. It's very strong.
But to answer your question, Jeremy, I don't know that she would even make my 10. unless I was testing her. I think the core for a Sentinel is Prime, a Mark IV, and Bucky.
Okay.
And you don't need any more affiliated because you're never running 6 wide with Sentinel.
Yeah.
I can see that.
And your other character slots will be taken up by the second affiliation you're running in case you go into a really wide scenario.
Yeah.
So for that reason, because you have to run them with a dual affiliation if you want to be competitive, I don't think she fits into an actual Sentinels roster. Unless you wanted to go Spider Foes and double down on tricks and traps.
Mysterio and her on the, Mysterio and her
Right.
on the table and all that business. Yeah.
And Goblin and Rocket. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, she absolutely could find a home in a foes list, and they can play wide, or at least on a wider scenario. So I don't think you could be wrong to run a Sentinel Spider Foe dual affiliation that includes Cassandra Nova. Now you're actually going to make me want to run that Adepticon, so screw you.
And now I'm going to make you walk into this trap. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I was just wondering. Like, I didn't try that. I didn't try her. So I just wondered if maybe she was the key to something, and I just didn't see that being the case.
So we got to the end of my game. It was Magneto and Sabretooth versus basically just Cassandra Nova, and there's no answer. It's like, you can't kill her.
She just keeps
It's so
moving.
hard.
You did.
Well, she kills you. Like you take Counter-Strike every time you move in range. Like, obviously, once she runs out of power, it works, but you got to suffer through all that power loss.
Mhm.
Anyway.
So if you had to pick, I mean, you're going to have to pick very soon. What are you leaning towards taking? I mean, you said Shield, but is that entertaining, or are you just trying to learn something and spend a bunch of games playing it?
So, I really think the competitive meta is still big boy focused. If
Okay.
you were to go on and look at the TTS finals rosters, and even the winners, there are very few people who aren't focused on running a Hulk, Thanos, or Malekith.
Okay.
7 of the 31 have Mal in them, which is, I think, relatively high. Maybe not inappropriately high, but that tells you something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to run Shield with Malekith, abusing Sitrep and Eye in the Sky.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that sounds good to me. Let's R&D him a power. Let's move him up the board. And now, with the Sitrep and the R&D, he might be able... Oh, I guarantee he can. He can charge the midline. He'll get 2 attacks round 1. And Shield brings the defensive tech to keep him safe. So I realized that Shield lately has been all about the little guys. Let's run Bucky and the Commandos and Iron Man. And that might be the best way to play Shield. I can't imagine these Shield players haven't tested Mal. But that just seemed like a combination that I really wanted to try. Because when I look at my forthcoming TTS games, I do not feel good about them. Like, I do not have an answer for the big guy.
Yeah.
So if I don't have an answer for it, I just double down on it.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to run Shield with Malekith, because I think that combination could be pretty sexy.
I don't disagree. I mean, that seems really good, being able to place him up the board with several different models, and with Sitrep and also Shield Mobile, you can give him a gadget.
I wouldn't, but yes, you could.
You could, you know.
You could.
Yeah, cool.
Otherwise, I would play something with Psylocke in it, because I think I have barely spent any time thinking about her, but I think she is my type of model. And by that I mean she has action economy. That's all it takes to be my kind of model.
Yeah.
So how would I prioritize her? Is it X-Men, Hell, Fire Club? Is it X-Force? I don't know. But I'd want to absolutely try to make her shine as much as possible. Those are the 2 types of lists I'm considering, Shield or a Psylocke-based list.
Cool. All right. Well, since it's a drive to con, then you can just bring all your stuff and figure it out there.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Our main topic today, we are going to do a second half of our crisis mission discussion. This time we're going to be doing extracts. I feel like we have a lot more interesting decisions and talking points about this, because I think what extracts you choose is sometimes much more important than the secures you choose, but we'll see. All right. So first one up today, we've got Research Station Attacked, 15 threat. Deploys on map Echo. There is the researcher in the middle. You can't pick these up. You have to try and push the researcher to the far side of the table to get an extra point. Differences in this mission. It used to be worth 2 if you got it to the other side, and it's only worth an extra 1 now. And it moved, or you score that in the cleanup phase. You have to actually contest the evac point. Oh no, you don't. You have to contest the researcher, not the evac point. Somebody told me that and they were wrong. Anyway, sorry. Side
Oops.
point. So, what's your guys' experience on this mission? What do you think about it?
I actually really like this mission. I think it is very straightforward while also being fair and balanced. You obviously need to have a plan to fight in the middle. Like, it's not worth as many points as it was before when you could push it down your opponent's throat to score 4. However, it is still worth the only 2 points you're going to score from extracts in that mission.
Yeah.
I really like the fact that you can't abuse it. You can't steal it. Like, it just sits there. And it says, do you want me? If so, prove it. Like, put a ring on it. By ring, I mean a model, right?
Yeah.
Haha. So...
I got it.
You got it? Okay.
I'm so mad at you right now. That just pissed me off.
Jeremy was looking a little confused.
Not at all. I'm actually angry.
Okay. Well, I'll shut up for now. You go ahead with your thoughts.
With all the models that are getting made right now that have these special caveats of, I will make you drop it and then I will take it. It's a wonderful addition to the, okay, I know what models you're not going to be taking in your list. Cool. I can build around that. Yeah, I mean, that's on just everything else that Aaron said. I agree.
Cool. So my opinion on this mission is it's kind of the foil to a lot of like gimmicky meta strategies. As you guys obviously pointed out, you can't steal it. You can't really mess with it. Like, you can board control the point itself, but it's just kind of going to be there. But a lot of people are playing strategies around stealing extracts, getting priority first. This not only completely changes the dynamic of most games, but also it's a low threat value. And so as person without priority, it gives you a neutral mission to play on where it's really hard for your opponent to punish you for it. And I like that. And so resetting it as a low point value with a central point, it's like if you're playing Scoundrels or something weird like a D deployment, this kind of makes it neutral ground again. I like this a lot. It used to be pretty much exclusively a kill mission crisis, but now I think it's more of a kind of like anyone can play it and have good success with it.
I also want to say it's very refreshing with all of the new things that tend to push you or light you on fire or punch you and stun you.
Yeah.
It just is there, right? Like,
yeah.
Cool. It's near me and I'm not beat up by it. It's just kind of, it's very neutral. It feels very fair.
Do you guys ever try and play keep away with it?
Yes. So what he means by that is, where do you put the researcher after you control it? Or secure it? Sorry. You could either try to ram it down your opponent's throat, but that means moving it toward their home base.
Right.
Which they may have more models. So where you put the researcher matters a lot.
Right.
I will typically put it to the side.
Yeah.
I put it to the side and slightly forward. Just enough where it takes
You want them to know that you're coming for them.
No, it just takes an additional
turn.
An additional turn to lock it in place so you don't get boned at the end. But
yeah, it obviously depends on the game, but don't be shy about placing it towards you if the board state is right. If your opponent is not playing a list that's good at pushing into you, and you can just sit back and turtle on the point, like right behind a piece of terrain. Like, I try and place it to where it's like, okay, well, there's this fairly large piece of terrain here. They don't have an easy way to destroy it, or I'll just make them spend resources to destroy it. And it's like, well, so I'll just tuck it just out of range to where you can't contest it from the ground. So I have to take like a climb action to get up on the building. And then I'll put all my models on top of the building so I'm getting cover. And so there's fun things you can do like that.
I will say, go ahead.
I would say, don't feel obligated to try and follow the flow chart of the mission. Like, you can do whatever you want.
But I will say, this can be a very game warping extract.
Yes.
You may need to come off of your secure plan. Like, you can't just ignore this and let them ram it down your throat. It is also very fighty, and it might be worth letting them win this as opposed to just running someone up to the middle to be like, I'm here. Okay, great. Now you're here, but you're also dead.
Yeah.
Reference my last game.
Yeah.
So Don't be in a hurry to score it, because this is likely going to be an attrition-based victory, whether it's a tabling or a scenario win. You need to focus attrition on any game which has Researcher.
Cool. All right. Next up, we have Paranoia Pummels Populace. Place 4 disturbance assets as shown on map K as in Kilo. You can pick one up. You can only have one at a time. And when you pick it up, if you do have an ally within range 2, you suffer damage. In the cleanup phase, if you have an ally within range 2, you score an additional victory point, maximum 1 per player. Jeremy, what are your experiences on Pummel?
This one is a lightning fast scenario because you have to have someone who is next to somebody and have 2 of them, because your opponent will have 2 of them, which means you're gaining 3. So
It's
God help
effectively
you.
a 6 extract.
Yes. So what generally happens is someone will start losing the attrition game. You'll start gathering them up, and you're scoring 5-0 against these things, or 6-0 even. It's super, super fast, which I actually like it because they're towards the middle, and if you can dive the middle, you can usually collect these pretty quickly and start scoring very fast, even with attrition.
Yeah. Aaron?
This is my second most hated extract for reasons Jeremy stated.
It's turbo.
I would.
This
Can't
game,
wait to hear what the most hated is.
yeah, this game can get away from you.
Yeah.
Because I like to always, I'm a control-based player, I'm a control-based person in my entire life, right? So I just kind of like it, whether I'm winning or losing, incremental is how I want it to go. Like, I don't want to be winning turn 1 and then turn 2 all of a sudden have it flipped 5-1 on me because my opponent got 1 daze.
Yeah.
Right? Or he threw one character away and I didn't get the bonus and they did. But everything Jeremy said is accurate. This is a extremely fast scoring mission. And I like to have the time to either grind my way to a victory or come back from defeat. And this game does not permit that. This is someone wins or loses, and shit's just happening.
It also really encourages turtling, because if you just play safe and get back up once you get the points, it's really hard to do anything about it, because you have to cross the board to try and fight them, and they're scoring. If they get 3 of them, they're scoring 4 off extracts plus whatever their defensive points in the back are. They give you scoring 6 a turn very easily, depending on the secure, and like you only get 3 turns and the game's over. And so you gotta be really careful.
I've kind of found that whoever gets the middle tends to be advantaged, because there are 2 paranoia points close to the center, and then the other 2 are out on the sides. I clearly need to play it more, but I've had my opponents take one in the middle. I'll go take a side. They'll take the other middle. I'll take the other side. Now, just like Jeremy said, they've got this cluster of guys in the middle that's all next to each other, scoring and supporting each other with their synergistic abilities. And I've got people on the outside. What do? Do I put 2 people left, 2 people right? Like, depending on how your team is formed and what you want to do, it's just bad. So I've ended up not scoring the bonus point, usually because I forget about it. But what needed to happen was I needed to break up their nut in the middle. And I can't just throw people out to the sides and do that at the same time.
Yeah.
So you definitely need to have a plan for this mission. And unless you have a very solid plan, I would not include this in your 3.
Yeah. This is definitely not an extract you can ignore. Like, you'll get way behind way fast.
All right. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I don't like this mission either. Because it's so swingy, and the person who plans for it generally has a noticeable advantage. So yeah, I agree. I think this is one of the worst ones. But it's not like actively broken, right? Like, I hate portals and I hate meteors, but meteors is definitely reasonable. I just hate it because it's pay to flip. Mm-hmm. And this is like, I hate this because it's a really fast scoring extract that punishes you in a weird way. But it's kind of fair until they start bringing characters specifically meant to take advantage of it. It's kind of like Herbs used to be. Herbs was fine until someone devoted their entire strategy to winning Herbs, and then it was unbeatable. And so it's definitely not that far, but it feels kind of like that.
So my issue is the game right now is based mainly around taking your blues. Mm-hmm. So if I'm bringing this and I lose Prio, that means my opponent gets Prio on Paranoia. And you think, oh, there's 4, it's equal. except they get their choice of which one to take. So if they take a middle one and they have enough models that can punish me from taking the other middle one, I'm forced to go to the outsides. And then we're in the situation I just described.
Yeah,
so
exactly. That
paranoia
seems to happen a lot.
For all of these extracts, you should think, are these fair if I'm going second? Is really what you should think. And I think you're disadvantaged into paranoia, even if it doesn't seem that way, because there's an even number of them.
Yeah. I think we're going to talk about that specifically more later, and we'll come back through and review these all as a group. But yeah. So, Jeremy, are you a fan of paranoia?
The more I play it, the more I am.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know
you think it's just an
don't...
experience thing?
For the same reasons of you can lose very quickly on accident, you actually have a pretty good chance of getting your points back pretty quickly if you're focused on attrition. You knock a few models down and they don't have what they were getting. They were getting 3 a turn. All of a sudden, they're only getting 1, and you're getting 4.
Yeah.
Like, that stuff happens, and I've seen it. Like, the more I play it, the more it kind of happens being a low model count player.
Yeah.
I do tend up falling behind on this one, but I can usually catch back up very quickly. And I also like it because it does a point of damage if no one's near you. And a lot of times, if you don't have someone with an exceptional healing, when you pick it up, you'll be damaged. Like, that's cool. I'm playing attrition. Take more damage. And late game, people can't even pick the thing up, which is cool too.
Yeah.
So I think
Quick
there's
anecdote.
I think there's a lot of game to it, as long as you're very focused on it. Because, yeah, taking your eye off the prize on this one will get you.
Yeah, you need to be looking at, like, who's got the tokens, like, how do I get them as soon as possible? Like, you need to be very proactive in the extract game.
And a first turn play
it's
for
not
this
just,
one's a big deal.
dazed a guy and he had one. Congratulations, me. Like, I get a point. Like, no, you're laser focused on the points. We just went to a tournament over the weekend, and I played this and Gamma. I played Brotherhood with Hulk tall against Go Wide Guardians. And so I went down the middle and they went wide. So they took a damage for picking up the extracts on the sides and then took a damage for Gamma on top of it.
Ugh.
And so once he consolidated back into the middle, try and rebuild his power base within the Gamma range, that was on turn 3 when he got back to the middle. And so I had priority, obviously. So Magneto plays Asteroid M and dazes 2 characters and KOs 2 other characters on turn 3. And literally the game just like, the table just flipped over. Like, it was such an inverse power vacuum. They were just like, okay, well, now what? And so, yeah, these games can get extremely swingy, so you need to pay attention to that. All right, next up. Alien ship crashes in downtown, 17 points. Charlie deployment, 1 power core on each. You can only hold 1 power core in the cleanup phase. If you are holding a power core and you have 3 or more power, you roll 3 dice. For each skull and or wild, the model and all characters within 2 suffer a damage. Jeremy, first impressions?
This is one of those that I kind of consider fair. So it's very low scoring. And being that I don't usually play my model, I don't play a lot of models, so if I've got a bunch of power and I have this thing, it's usually in the middle of all of your stuff. So it's kind of cool for me. It's just very low scoring. It's a very slow game.
I've seen 4 damage handed out on 1 roll.
That's awesome.
Three enemies and their self, only triggered it once.
Yeah, boom. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of anecdotes, I hit 2 triggers on, I think, 5 total models.
Jesus Christ.
I think I did 10 damage, 2 to him and 8 to my team. Yeah.
Oh.
It was bad.
Yeah.
That's
brutal.
Crazy.
Having said that, I actually like this mission a lot, which is weird because I already said I don't like randomness, but for whatever reason, this randomness actually appeals to me.
Well, because this is, in my opinion, a comeback mechanic. Because the character holding it, having a lot of power, is usually really good because that means they're doing well. Because if you have a lot of power, you're probably already dead. Or you're doing well. And so it feels like it's kind of a comeback situation.
Well, the mechanic of taking damage occurs after scoring in the cleanup phase. So unlike almost everything else that happens, there's no in-game displacement effect that happens either during the activation phase or in one of the phases, right? So all it is damage. One of your characters might get flipped, but it's not going to change scoring, right? And it's not going to change where people are at. So I guess for that reason, I'm okay if my model that was on 1 health is now dead. Right?
Yeah.
Do I like it? No, but that level of randomness is okay with me. Whereas, oh, you just got pushed here. I guess your opponent can now flip it for free. That kind of randomness upsets me more.
It's not like Portals where it's like you fail a roll and you just get further behind. I agree. I like this mission as well. It seems very fair. I'm not excited to play this mission, but I definitely don't dislike playing this mission. It seems very fair. I don't think I can even recall a situation where I'm like, oh man, this roll is really going to determine like the winner of this round. Like it's very rarely.
Yeah.
It's like it's usually because it's 3 chances at a 1 in 8 or a 2 in 8, so 1 in 4. Like it usually is like 1 damage. It's not that much. It's very survivable, and when it happens, you're like, whatever. It's like it's in the cleanup phase. Like I'll get him next turn because you get dazed. Like the token drops next to you. And then you re-rack, you go back to full health, and you got a bunch of power now. It's like, it seems fine. Like, I don't know.
I've actually had it the other way around where they actually dazed themselves. And I was like, oh, you
Trying
son
to kill
of
you?
a bitch. No!
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're flipped over and they're fine, and I got to kill them all again. Like, I'd saved that nugget for that. I'm like, I will throw that guy into that guy, and they'll daze him, and then he's off. He won't get to do anything to me. Nope.
And then they pick it up and die.
Yeah. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, no, this seems like the right amount of chaos, if you ask me.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I've never hated this one, with this revamp.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Now, this is tied for least played extract in 2023 for me.
Wow, that's just a straight mistake. All right, we'll move on. All right. Oh boy. Spider infected invade Manhattan. Oh, an oldie and a baddie. 17-point extract on map Foxtrot. Only hold 1 spider infected at a time. During the power phase, roll for 1 die for each character. On a damaging result, the character advances short result by their opponent. 1 point each. Jeremy.
Can't we just
Thoughts?
have one that's exactly like this, except it's like Aunt May's cookies, where you just get to hold it and you just get a point for being there? Like, this thing is such horse shit. Having your models randomly, it's just so stupid. I hate
The problem
these.
is it's never fair. It's always one-sided.
It is.
as fuck.
It's real bad.
It's never like, oh, we each had 1 important guy move. No, it's like all of my 3 models moved this round. None of yours moved. And so now they just die because you had priority.
And because it's
and
so
then it
silly,
swings back.
Yeah,
it's just
so silly because it goes back and forth. And it's just, at no point does anyone feel good about it. You know what I mean? Like, you're like oh, shit, that's bad that you moved into me. I'm going to get in there. Or vice versa.
Right. You'll have games where it's like, it was impactful, but it wasn't game-breaking. But it feels like more often than not, it's just like, well, this game is this. I'm definitely going to lose this round because of like 1 roll. Like I've definitely lost games where obviously you can play better, right? Like it's not like the 1 roll fucked you, but it's like if that doesn't happen, it caused a cascading chain of events that you had no control over, and you just watched like a game fall out of your hands.
Yeah. What do you do? Just not pick them up?
Like for example,
playing
one of the games I played against one of the Des Moines guys when we went up to Des Moines and hung out at Muse. I had thrown a Crimson Bands into Hulk, so he was staggered. And my Steve Rogers had an infected token. And so we start the turn. Steve gets advanced. He advanced him directly away from Strange. Hulk activates first, leaps, and dazes Strange to the point, full health, with the plus dice and everything. Dies exactly, throws him into Widow, who's also holding a token but didn't get moved, and dazes her, and I drop that token, and Hulk picks it up. It was just like, okay, like sure, like what are the freaking odds of this? Like it's like Steve had to get walked out of bodyguard range. He had to kill me exactly to the point. Then he like dazes both. It's just a nightmare, whole nightmare scenario.
I fucking hate this mission.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you guys have talked about. I tend to be very precise with where I put my models. Sometimes I'm wrong, but they're usually in a spot for a reason. Just like you talked about bodyguard range or martial artist or whatever the case may be. Outside of 3, can't attack me.
Contesting. Like
Sure.
getting walked off a point repeatedly and spending it 1 action around, getting back to the point.
So I think this is a great garage mission. Like, you want to play with your buddies, just grab this mission. It is fun. Bad shit's going to happen to you, and bad shit's going to happen to them, and it's all just kind of going to get washed out in the macro sense. But in the micro sense, you're going to have a bad game or two where you just get shafted.
Mhm.
And I can't stand that. So that's why
I've
I
seen
hate
games
this
where
mission.
like one player gets it triggered like 12 times in the game, the other player gets it triggered once. It's just like,
Right.
what are you supposed to do, man?
In theory, it's fair. In practice, it's not. And so
Right.
it has been a long, long time since this mission has ever been in my set of 3 by choice.
Yeah. But you almost have to play it because it's one of the 2 Fs. So it's the only 2 that have 5. So if you're trying to play a high scoring game with board control, and obviously some affiliations are more advantaged on it because they don't rely on action economy. Like Web Warriors are like the most common example. It's like they don't really want to fight you. And so every time one of your models gets moved, it's anti-attrition. And when they get moved, it rarely puts them in attack range. And so it really doesn't matter to them. So I understand like why people play it. But what if it was like, instead of being this role, what if it was like on a skull, all characters holding a point get advanced? And so it's always the exact, like it's always fair because every model moving it does it. Or change it to a less likely role. So it's like maybe one character around gets advanced.
I like Jeremy's idea better. Like, it's an
Just don't have the thing.
It's Aunt May's wheat cakes, but you
Mhm.
don't know which wheat cake you got. So you roll a die, and every die corresponds to a condition. Oh, that
Oh,
guy got
God.
incinerate. That guy got poison. That dude's shocked.
Oh my god!
I
that
would
be a
rather
nightmare.
having an effect like you get shocked or whatever. Maybe even that's it. Spider effect. You get bitten, so you're bleeding. Like, just an effect is fine. It's so game crushing to have your model simply just walk up and they have priority.
Yeah.
You're
I
like,
would
really?
rather be take a damage.
Sure, take a damage
Sure.
is fine too.
I just don't like the board positioning change.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Actually, it could just be like you suffer 4-die attack or something. Like doesn't explode, no mods. Like it could be a lot of stuff. The board positioning is so impactful, and we've seen that. And when this mission was designed, they clearly didn't respect like short advances as much as they do now. Because we've seen stuff like Enchantress, MODOK, all those mind control type people have gotten errated because that was too strong. Like board control is very powerful in the game.
Even
They've completely changed the way they write board control effects now.
even a place 1. I mean, that still isn't great, but a place 1 doesn't put you within
And
crazy
the fact that it's an
ranges.
advance and not a push, like you can walk up onto terrain, you can cross people, like you can move over bases, over terrain. It's so strong. Anyway, I think all of us agree. None of us like this mission. If
sir.
you play a non-fighty affiliation that wants to score a lot of points, it makes sense to play it. But I think that's the only people looking at this. Moving on. Struggle for the Cube continues. 17-point Foxtrot. So it's exactly the same as last mission except for the secondary effect. This one is during the cleanup phase. Each character suffers 1 damage for each cosmic cube fragment they are holding. Each character gains 1 power for each damage they suffered. Important things to note, these are individual points of damage. So if you have DR, it doesn't work unless your DR goes to 0. And if your DR does go to 0, you don't gain power. But even Thanos takes damage from this because it's not an enemy effect. Jeremy, what's your mouth feel on cubes?
Cubes usually feels pretty good. I actually enjoy cubes. I don't put it in my list because it is way too fast. I don't like ones that are this fast, and I also don't like ones that Hulk can pick up like 3 and run away. That sucks. But if you're playing a fair game and both players have, the same sort of setup, and, you pick up 3, they get 2, whatever, it usually ends up being a really fun game. Lots of power handed around. It's cool. It's fine. Everybody's damaged. They're a little easier to kill. Sure.
Aaron?
I will play this over Spider Infected every day of the week and twice on Sunday. However, I refuse to put a single centerline extract mission in my list for reasons we'll talk about at the end. And by single,
Are you calling an F a single center line?
yes, there is one extract on the center line.
Okay, that's fair. So I agree with you 100% on the Spider Infected. This is like the fair version of Spider Infected. So there's that. And like you said, we'll talk about the other thing later. I think this is, again, a great like garage mission. If you're both playing fair, this mission's great. Like, no one's going to be mad. The fact that you don't get days in the power phase anymore is perfect. They fixed that. It's now in the cleanup phase. You get your turn. That's all great. Yeah. C+. Moving on. I think me and Jeremy don't like because we tend to play tall lists, and cubes is not great for tall lists because you take so much damage or you just lose. So there's that. Next up, we have Fear Grip's World as Worthy Terrorized Citizens, 18 points on a Delta deployment. Celestial Hammers are assets. You can pick them up, and while holding them, characters add 1 die to their attack rolls for each Celestial Hammer they are holding. Characters holding 1 or more Celestial Hammers must pay 1 power before playing Team Tactics cards. So they cleaned up the wording on that, which is nice, and now it's only a maximum of 1 extra power, which is cool. Jeremy, do you like Worthy?
Every other time I play it. Sometimes you will gather up a pile of hammers and hit things with it. Other times, your opponent will gather up a pile of hammers and hit things with it. It's all about the pile of hammers and where it is and who had priority in whichever model. I don't know, man. Like, it never works out in a way that you want it to. Extra dice equals more spiky dice. And as I'm playing usually models that have a bunch of health, the last thing I want is to juice you up and throw hammers at me. And I also find it strange that you need an extra power to play tactics card. It just doesn't make sense. And people forget it all the time. I forget it. I don't know. It's okay. It's kind of fair, but you just become a giant loot pinata, and whoever has the pinata at the end of the game wins. That's how I've usually seen it.
Aaron?
I am relatively ambivalent about hammers. I concur with everything Jeremy said. I will say that people, I think, tend to play it incorrectly, which is making your person into a loot pinata, because who doesn't want to roll 3 extra dice with X model? So they grab the hammers, they run into the enemy, and they're like, "Hiya!" Great, you just tased the character. Now you just provided them the 3 hammers as they pick them all up after they kill you.
Yeah.
So if you can get them all on Hulk undamaged, great, right? But again, I don't think everyone always does that. So if you treat them more as valuable extracts worth a point instead of an extra damage for your character, or die rather, then how would that change how you use them, right? So I would challenge everyone when you play hammers not to use them aggressively and see how that changes your play pattern and if your games turn into loot pinata fests or not. The reason I like it is because there's 2 centerline extracts. So absent some shenanigans, it can be fair. You grab one, I grab one. I grab my back, you grab your back. Look at that. We both have 2 hammers. And let's play the game from here. Again, we can talk more about turn 1 stuff later, but I don't like the loot pinata aspect. I do like the relatively fair aspect of hammers.
I don't like hammers.
I know.
The reasons. I think Aaron has a good way to look at hammers. I think the loot pinatas is one of the problems. So the game will start off. My biggest issue with this, I don't like 2 centerline extract missions because, and this might just be that I played an absorbent amount of grunt enemies in a row on hammers. But if you are going second and your opponent has a grunt character, they just get both hammers. And unless you set up exactly correctly to stop them, there's no answer. They just get both hammers. So you're down 3-1 on extracts starting on the first turn. That's bad in the business is what we call that. I don't know what the fuck else you're supposed to do about that. Like sometimes you are going to get screwed by it just because your opponent's playing an archetype model. And that's just going to be a growing issue moving forward because we're going to see more grunt characters. The second issue I have with this is there are some characters that are extremely powerful in this mission. I call them Volt type characters. They're anyone who can exploit picking these up. Generally characters that generate multiple power or on a medium base, fairly fast moving, and have good attacks. Those models most notably are models like Ghost Rider, Sorcerer Supreme, and Master of Hydra. Those 3 models, if they achieve multiple hammers, are going to completely wreck your day because they do too much damage, too efficiently, too reliably, and are hard to kill in return. And that's going to be a problem. So if your opponent's playing those models and you're not, you're at a huge disadvantage. And if we're assuming that you're not the one playing hammers, that's going to be a problem. But if you're also playing hammers, you're just doubling the odds that they get to play on the mission they want to play on.
Add Thanos to that list, by the way.
Right. No, there's more. I was just like, those are the ones I see a lot of. Thanos, 100%. Like, once Thanos gets 3 hammers, it's like, you're done. This game's over.
It's like Thanos
and then...
Go ahead.
That's it. That's the last of that point. I have one more.
Like, Thanos and Skull can grab 2 hammers turn 1 and be at their back point. So they can play eyes, move up, take the side one, move back to their back one, take the back one. Now they're safe with 2 hammers for whatever they want to do turn 2.
Strange does the same thing.
Yeah.
And so, for example, what do you do against Doctor Strange or Ghost Rider or Thanos or all these things? So the problem is they come into you. Strange is rolling 7 dice Mystic Pierce attacks that get to re-roll his attack rolls against you. He does this. He walks in, he just kills 2 models, and then spends 4 to place backwards range 3. You have no answer. You have no reprisal. He's just going to kill 2 people a turn, and he's probably going to kill your people with hammers first, which means he's going to get to 3 hammers, and then get to 4 hammers, and there's just going to be no answer for it. And so, unless you have someone who can deal with a teleporting Doctor Strange that rolls 9 dice Mystic Pierce attacks with rerolls, you should not be playing this mission. And no one does that, so just don't play this mission. The final point is the Jeremy Loot Pinata point. What happens is, in a fair situation with both people playing, like, I like to call it a kitchen table MCP, when you're just playing for fun, nobody's really got an agenda in mind, and we each get 2. And then, like, we close gap, we start fighting each other. Someone drops 1. The one person goes up to 3. But if the person who made them drop 1 gets the hammer, now 1 character has 2. Whoever kills that guy gets to go up to 3 because they already had a hammer. And it just turns into this like back and forth wave pool of people picking up a bunch of hammers and killing people back and forth. And whoever ends up holding the bag is going to win. And you don't really get to decide that because it's a dice game. So I hate...
It's like a weird version of Munchkin.
Yeah. It's like they're just handing around the big mallet that you hit people with. I'm like, why are we doing this?
So, counter tactic, possibly. Don't pick it up with the person, your character that has 2 hammers. So you just dazed someone and they drop their hammer. Instead of picking it up, just place it somewhere. So now if they want to grab it, they have to take a move action to go grab it, pick it up, and then make an attack action.
In some situations, that's viable. A lot of people have action economy, so it makes it harder.
You
but
are
yes,
absolutely correct.
Not to mention just leaving a victory point sitting on the table seems dumb, right?
Sure, in the short term. But long term, if you know that your character is likely to die, why would you pick it up? You know you're just giving it right back to him.
If you're going to play this mission, put mission objective in your squad. Like, just like as a baseline to try and hedge against the loot pinata. Like, but that's the least important reason not to play this mission, in my opinion. I think this mission is so abusable by so many different things. If you're not one of those things with a bullet, you should not be playing this. It's just going to open up, like, not negative play experiences, but you're going to lose games over it. Like, it's just a high RNG mission. I don't like it for that reason.
Let me correct one thing you said. If you are playing any mission, you should put mission objective in your squad.
Researcher.
Okay. You got me. I actually thought you said roster. You're right. It does not. Mission objective does not belong in your squad 100% of the time.
On researcher.
But it should be in your roster.
Okay. Moving on. And I'm only so passionate about that mission. Like, I actually think you can play that mission and have a good time. I'm only so passionate because so many people play it and just act like, just have the blinders on against all of these issues and act like it's their favorite mission. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, just admit that it's bad and you're just trying to have a good time, and I won't bother you. Next one up, we have the Montesi formula found. 18 points, Echo deployment. You can only have one of these tokens at a time. They're spell books. While having a spell book, you may perform the following attack once per turn. Mystic Beam, 3, 6 dice. While making this attack, you can add dice to your pool or modify your attack dice, which means even your crits do not explode, and people do that wrong all the time. So, Jeremy, do you like the Montesi formula found?
It's slow. 18 points, whatever. I think this is one Aaron needs to talk about. It's a center. It's a classic center. And Aaron has some opinions about center objectives.
Well, we were planning on talking about this later, but yes.
Yeah.
It's
so,
pretty
go ahead.
obvious that whoever goes first has a pretty big advantage on this one. There's one central extract.
I find people take it often for the Mystic Beam that it grants. I also find that people rarely end up using that Mystic Beam, even after I talk to them, like after the game. I'm like, so why'd you take Montesi? And you're like, oh, gives me a Mystic attack. Okay, great. That you never used, okay. Or they'll take it like because they're playing Convocation and they're good into Mystic, so they feel like they're not giving me an advantage. I will tell everyone.
You playing Parker's opponents now?
Please don't take Montesi for the book, the beam.
No, that's definitely terrible. It's not even it's arguably not even a good attack.
There's like 4 dice builder is probably a better attack than this, unless like you're going into Steve on his backside with 1 health left, right? Or you can manage to get 3 people. It gives you a beam attack. There are viable reasons to use this book as an attack.
Logan,
sure,
hitting Logan.
Yep. I would say you should never put this in your roster because of that.
So what I see a lot of people do is they take it because it's a low scoring mission, but in reality, you're usually going second when you're picking extracts. We've talked about that a little bit, and so what it really means is that I'm scoring 1 on extracts, my opponent's scoring 2 on extracts. Is usually what happens, and so that's a huge negative, obviously, but it is still low scoring, but it's not much lower scoring than just a 4 extract mission for the same reason. I can see people playing it. I think there's places it works. We'll talk a little bit more about it later, but I don't think there's a reason you should be playing it unless it's a very specific reason.
It has been in my list. I've since taken it out of all my lists except for the one I'm currently running. We can talk about that later. Yeah, I have grown to very much dislike this mission.
Yeah, it used to be very fair, and now it seems very unfair.
So, real quick, we'll hit on more of it later, but the difference between this and the other 3 extract missions is because this is on the E setup. And so if they can grab the middle and retreat, they have both of their extracts in a very safe location. The other C deployment triple extracts are all out there on the midline. Like, maybe they can grab both of theirs and retreat somewhere. Maybe they're both sitting out there on the center line with their junk in the wind. Like, it's a very much more dynamic situation as opposed to Montesi, which is, I have 2 books on my back point. What are you going to do? Every time I've been in that situation, I'm like, well, option 1 is I lose slowly. Option 2 is I forget what I was going to do at the beginning of this game, and I just bum rush you with every model I've got.
Yeah.
So, unless you like that playstyle, choose a different extract.
Cool. Next up, Deadly Legacy Virus cured? There's a question mark. 19 threat, Charlie deployment. You can have multiple of these. When you pick one up, you must interact for 1 and also spend 1 power for each legacy cure you already have. And so effectively, you will pay an amount of power equal to how many you will have at the end of the interact. And so the first one you go to pick up is 1, and then 2, and then 3. During the cleanup phase, if a non-grunt character is holding all 3 legacy cures, its controlling player does not score victory points from this crisis as normal. Instead, remove all legacy cures from the game, then the character is KO'd, and the controlling player scores 6 victory points. The most important part of that a lot of people forget, which is why Evacuation Efforts was banned, is that it removes the extracts from the game, thus reducing the maximum scoring every round by a noticeable margin. And I think that's what a lot of people don't grasp about this one. So if your opponent ever assembles the cure, it's almost an assured loss unless you're already like 15 points, because you can no longer score the extracts. And so that's really brutal. Jeremy?
I actually like it. It's very slow. I haven't seen anyone in this new format to actually score this thing, because you have an opportunity to stop it from being scored now instead of it auto-scoring. And Malekith really loves it. He loves to have 2 of these and just kill everybody.
Yeah.
Like, trying to take those from him is really tough. I like it for that. It has good game into how I like to play this game.
Aaron?
This is probably my favorite mission.
Ooh.
So, for multiple reasons. 1, it's relatively fair. They're all centerline extracts. there's no negative for holding one of these, right?
Yeah.
So you can pick one up, and it is Natme Wheat Cake. It's a virus cure, right? It's a good thing to have. The teams that were abusing it no longer are. I think this could be abusable, but the people who wanted to abuse it decided that the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, and so they aren't anymore, which makes me very happy. So I think I've actually assembled it twice in 2023, neither of which had a huge impact on the game because I was going to win them anyway. It just ended up winning them faster.
Yeah. You basically just double your scoring.
Right. Instead of scoring 3, you score 6 and then don't score anymore. Like, okay.
Yeah.
You were going to score 3 anyway.
Yeah, you were going to score 3 next turn, assuming you could protect it. So,
but I've been playing a decent amount of Kingpin in my games this year, about 35 so far. And so he provides a great way to assemble the virus with his leadership ability. So that's why I personally have been running it quite a bit. But even without Kingpin, I still like this a lot because there's no downside. It's relatively fair. End of story.
It's nice to be able to hold more than one extract on a character as well. That's kind of a rare thing these days. So if you are playing tall, you can still score 2 instead of only being able to do 1 max, which you run into quite a bit now.
Yeah. No, I generally like this one as well. It's a good threat total. It's not a negative. It's not a negative play experience usually. They really, like, chef's kiss adjusted this one with the erratas, making it to where you only score 6, not 8, to where it happens in the cleanups. There's a chance to do something about it. Like, there's a lot of really good, elegant changes to this. I think it's one of my favorite ones as well. All right, moving on. Next up, we have Mutant Extremists target U.S. senators. 19 threat. 6 civilian tokens, as on map L as in Lima. You can only have 1 senator at a time, and a character holding a senator can only make 1 move action per turn.
Let's talk real quick about that last sentence, just to make sure everyone is in the same understanding and know.
All right. So, to my understanding, if you make 2 move actions and pick this up, you lose the game because you've broken the rules, right?
Did your opponent let you make that second move action?
Yes.
Okay, then you're still good.
Okay.
So once you have it, you can only have taken 1 move action. It's very easy in my head.
I was just kidding, obviously, yeah. So effectively what happens is, at any point while holding this, you are not allowed to make a move action if you have already made one. And so if you double move and pick it up, you obviously can't move, usually because you're out of actions. But if you were to, let's say, for example, Hulk walks forward, picks up a token, he can now no longer take move actions because he's already moved once, even though the move happened prior to picking it up.
What about
a lot of people? A lot of people don't realize that. So, what was your question?
What about Black Cat? Can she walk forward, pick it up, and then troublemaker someone and get the elusive trigger? Can she then move with elusive?
Yes, she can, because
Why?
it's specifically move actions and not advances.
Okay.
But for example, Zemo could not move forward, pick this up, and then charge, because charge gives you a move action specifically.
Okay. So read your card, and if it says move action, only get 1 of them.
Right.
Advances.
So you could trigger. Yeah, you could use. Well, this is bad. So I was going to say Quicksilver, but he can't do it while he's holding extract. Let me think. Who spends power to advance?
Ghost Rider.
That's a good example. So Hell on Wheels is a 3-cost superpower that lets him advance long. It doesn't grant him a move action; it just lets him advance long. That is legal. You can do that.
Cool. Just wanted to make sure we had that discussion.
Zemo's Steel Rush, same thing. He does a range 3 attack, and then afterwards he gets to advance medium. That's fine. Anyway.
Okay.
Jeremy, how do you feel about Senators?
It's either really awesome or really not awesome. Like, I kind of see this one, again, I've been playing a ton of Malekith, so to me this is the Godzilla with everyone screaming and running, and they just can't run fast enough, and Godzilla's, like, killing everybody. Yeah, I mean, 1 move action, you're not running away anymore, unless you have those specialized characters that have built-in alternate movement plans. It's a lot of points. You can only hold 1 of them. I haven't seen this played very much at all, so I really don't know how it actually plays. I mean, I've played it maybe twice, and each time was kind of like, well, you're not moving anywhere, so I'll just kill you guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't played it much. I don't have much opinion other than it's crazy.
Aaron?
So this was the first extract to get broken by the community with the Mystique Dream Team of Mystique, Jugs, Hulk, and others. The reason they break it is because they can perform non-move action movement abilities on turn 1 after picking up the extract. So Hulk can Gamma
Right.
Leap and Jugs can push. Toad can grab one from far away, and Mystique deceptions the opponent, and all of a sudden they're picking up all the extracts, and if you go to pick anything up, you die.
Yeah. Unless you have strong counterplay, it generally ends up 5-1 if the Mystique player has priority.
Even if they don't, you're kind of hosed because you send someone out there with
Right.
your first action, and they just get deceptioned in.
It's just not guaranteed.
Correct.
You could very well still end up 5-1 with priority on a 6 extract mission, which is very bad.
So because this mission has been quote-unquote broken, people have listened to other people and decided not to even put it in their rosters, which is why Jeremy's not playing against it. Like, you hear, oh, you can't play Senators because you play against Brotherhood, and they get their secures, and you drop down Senators, and they're like, thank you?
Yeah.
So I haven't tested that often into Senators. I did play it up in Nebraska, and it was not great for me.
You played the matchup or just the mission?
Both. Brotherhood on Senators.
Oof.
Oh, they
Oof.
definitely went up 4-2 on the extracts. And I had very little thing. Like, turn 1 was just like every option was bad.
Yeah.
It took a long time to dig out of that hole.
Yeah, I wonder. See, that's the crazy part to me is like I don't see anyone playing that list. I played against the list like maybe once, and he was probably playing Senators, but we just didn't get Senators. But like people will play stuff like Worthy, which I think is way more like divisive than this because you only play against that list like 1% of the time. But they'll still put Worthy in their list and then just lose to Worthy repeatedly against people that abuse it better than they do. I just don't understand like what the community sees and it's like gets labeled broken and becomes the boogeyman. Like the things that people react to just blow my mind sometimes. Like
I actively want to play this more to get more practice on it. The problem is since I'm never running it, right, and no one else is running it, like you only get practice unless you're playing Brotherhood.
Well, I'm running it.
Sure. Playing Brotherhood.
Yeah.
So again.
Oh, I see. You wanted practice against not Brotherhood. Okay. I thought you were like, I need practice to beat the Brotherhood list. I was like, well, we can do that. And you're like, no, I don't want to play against Mystique.
Well, I just need some generic practice on Senators, right? And then maybe some specific practice into Mystique Senators.
Yeah.
But this is just one I haven't played on a lot, just like Jeremy said.
I agree. This mission is super negative if you pull the bad matchup on it. I'm surprised we don't see more people just forcing their way through on like just playing a go wide like Sam Avengers list on this. I feel like that would be super punishing as well. Because while you're not able to take multiple move actions, their Sam leadership is triggering every time you daze somebody, which is going to be really annoying. Yeah, I'm surprised it doesn't get played more, but I'm glad it doesn't because I think it's a really, really negative play experience mission against the right matchup. But a lot of people play that archetype, but don't play this mission. All right, last one. Skrulls infiltrate world leadership, 20 threat. Interact with the Skrull agents, which are civilians deployed on map J. You pick up the Skrull agent, and a character can hold only one Skrull agent at a time, then roll dice equal to the character's physical defense. If the result does not contain a critical or a wild, the opposing player pushes this character short. Jeremy, go.
Oh, God. This is Spider-Infected B. Like, I swear to God, every time you pick something up, it's like, please, Jesus, just let me hold on to this. All right, here I go. I'm just going to go into enemy lines yet again. The randomness of this is just a pain in the ass. I don't enjoy playing 20 threat. There's just very little about this one that I enjoy. I don't play this one.
Aaron?
I like this one more than Jeremy does. Clearly. Normally we're on the same wavelength, so that's interesting here. I don't think it's as bad as Spider Infected because the push occurs during your activation. So you have tools at your disposal, whether you choose to use them or not, to mitigate that push, unlike Spider Infected, which just says screw you from the beginning. I think there are interesting lines of play. Like you can play Angela, Eyes on the Prize, to take your opponent's scroll, which makes them come into you. And if they double move and pick up the scroll and get pushed toward your line, oh, that's so good, right? Now you murder them and pick up the scroll. It asks some interesting questions. What do you do on one of the side points? Do you double move and hope, right? I mean, Jeremy's kind of been owned by a couple poor rolls on scrolls, like where he just gets fed to his enemy.
Or to your own trap.
And then to your enemy. Yes.
And then to your enemy.
So there's a level of RNG that I don't love, but on the other hand, I'm not sure how abusable Scrolls is by a specific faction. Let's put it that way. I don't think there's a team
Spider-Foes.
No. I don't think there's a team that can abuse Scrolls. I think every faction has tools that they can use to be successful on Scroll. And that's why it's kind of up to you if you want to bring those tools or not. So actually, I'm relatively ambivalent, but leaning towards liking this mission.
I agree, actually. I feel like this is the fair version of Spider-Foes. I don't mind the 20 points. It is a lot for Extract, which is a bit surprising, which I think they kind of just plan on you losing a guy because of this role at some point. I do wish it wasn't a push short. Like, I feel like a place 1 would have been better. Push short's just so far. But that being said, I really like what you said about it's reactive to your activation. You're actually making a decision that will lead to you being pushed or not pushed. And it's not like a passive thing that happens later once it's out of your control. I really like that. It's like, do I want to pick this up right now? And you can position in ways, because it is a push though, like, oh, look, I can set up against this piece of terrain, which is going to make it less likely for me to get pushed this direction. I can, position between these two people, like make sure I can box in the objective to where my guy won't get pushed forward. There's a lot of things you can do to really leverage the penalty of this roll. You can also use models that have an advantage on the roll. I don't dislike this mission at all. I actually kind of like this mission the more I play it. It's actually hard to abuse because it's random. Obviously, you'll have games where it's very one-sided and one person fails all the rolls, the other person makes all the rolls, and it's like, it feels bad. But even in games where I've seen it's been pretty one-sided, it hasn't been that bad.
The other thing Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, I was just saying, it's actually interesting because when you go from turn 1 to picking them up, you always remember. And everyone's like, okay, did you get it? Not, where's your guy? Whatever. But then come turn 4 or 5, when someone drops one, and you're like, oh my God, do I pick that up? Holy shit. That's when it gets funny. That's all.
And it's only one victory point. Yep. You might not pick it up. You're like, can I afford to? You get to make that decision. Anytime there's a decision being made and not someone just rolling dice because stuff happened, like, I like that more.
I think the reason this is more of a feels good than, say, Montesi or Spider Portals, those are secures that have negative effects when you roll dice and have a bad result. The difference here is with, what are we talking about? Scrolls. You always get the victory point. You might get pushed, but you have that 1 point no matter what. Like when you are rolling on a pay to flip secure, you could have a bad roll and you could get ported away and not get the point. Like there could be double feels bad, right? Or you take a damage and don't get the point, or get the point and take a damage, or don't get the damage but don't get the point, which may be like even worse if you need the victory point. So because your pay to flip secures have a chance of failure, there's no chance of failure from a victory point standpoint when you pick up a scroll. And the only reason I think that's similar is because you're both rolling dice after you interact with that objective marker. And so it kind of triggers the same thought process in my head. Oh, objective marker. I'm going to score a point for this. Roll a die. So I think the scrolls are more feels good because you're always getting that victory point.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So that's the extracts. So now let's have a little conversation now that we've talked about all of the missions in the game, secures and extracts. General lines of play and thought consensus about missions. So I think it's pretty obvious. Most people assume when they're picking their missions that they're choosing secures when they win priority. So let's talk about why that is.
Because the battle is... Oh, go ahead. Go.
I think that your team is a general archetype of control or attrition, and your secures are going to lean in that direction. For instance, when I'm playing Sentinels, I'm playing the E secures. I'm Gamma Demons Intrusions, and Intrusions isn't E, but it's very fighty, right? I'm going to play the fighty secures. I don't want go wide superpowered scoundrels or riots or spider portals,
D's.
right? Those are all very
D's
bad.
are terrible for Sentinels. They're only range 3.
Yes. Anyway, so your team composition of what you want to do is largely driven behind brick up and fight in the middle, or play super wide on a D or a B or an F shape, and play more of a control-oriented game. So because that your team composition, anyway, I'll stop talking. What I said earlier.
Yeah, so to further what you were saying, generally when you're building a roster, you've got the archetype, the plan, right? Like, how are you going to achieve victory? Are you going to do it through board control? Are you going to do it through defense, through offense? Like, are you a blitz? Are you attrition? Like, there's a lot of different things go into it. But generally speaking, your core list, like the 3 models you take the most often, are going to determine how your list wants to play with its footprint. And when you're picking your crises, the secures are going to determine where the fight takes place. And you want to choose one that's complementary to the footprint of your army. So, like, for example, if you're playing a narrow Steve list where you want to brick up, you want to have bodyguards, you want to have your cheap discounts, you want to have, like, Doctor Strange giving out buffs, like, all that stuff. You want to be in a tight little package. And so you want to take secures that complement that. Whereas you were to play on D's every map, well, now your whole strategy doesn't work, obviously. So you want to pick secures that let you play the style you want. And that's why it's important, because the extracts are temporary, the secures are eternal, generally. They're going to decide where the battle is fought, and you need that to be in a way that your strategy works. And so that's why most people choose secures as their, when I win priority, these are the missions I'm taking. Jeremy, is there anything you would disagree with there? Is there anything that you've felt that we should add?
No, other than I do think you see a lot of the same these days. At least when we went to LVO, there was a lot of the same when it came to the blues. The caveat would be X-Men. They played different ones, but
right.
Everyone else was playing like the same ones. So knowing that, I feel like I should have paid more attention to the extracts and played more of the extract game, and could have got ahead of it, being that everyone else was playing what I was playing anyway. Might as well make sure that I get what I want.
So, when it comes to this, like Jeremy pointed out, some affiliations have like preset ones they want to take. Like, because X-Men have their advantage on pay to flips, they want to run pay to flips regardless, is what the popular opinion is anyway. So, now when we look at it with that perspective, why are extracts, so hated sometimes? And it's because it's generally assumed you're only choosing your reds when you've lost priority, which is why the single extracts are so punishing when you don't have a way to punish your opponent for picking it up. Like, let's say most people are playing stuff like Hulk or Juggernaut or things that can get the middle and be relatively safe afterwards. Let's see, Toad's a good example. I personally think the shield grunts are really, really good because it's so hard to interact with them. There are models that can do it. It's just hard. So basically, if you can safely get an extract and get back with an extract point, that's incredibly good. Like Eye on the Prize, Beta Ray Bill is a good example. Beta Ray can play on the prize, walk forward, pick up the middle, and back up. And there's basically no way you can get to him. Like, he's so far away that you cannot properly leverage threat against him. And so when your opponent does that on a mission where there's only three extracts, well, now they've got the majority of the points. And you're going to have to get up and cross the entire table to try and fight them for it. And in doing so, you're going to be down several points from the multiple turns of scoring to that point. And so it's going to be hard for you to come back, which is why a lot of these missions are very disliked and they don't get played. That being said, doesn't mean that you can't have a strategy that's going to combat that. Like Sinister Traps with Spider Foes, it goes a little bit of the way towards it. Having models that have abilities like Deception on Mystique, that's why she's played in almost every freaking list nowadays. Because even if you have the ability to back up, well, moving him back forward just undoes your backup. So now we're back to even footing again, and then maybe Hulk walks up and throws you backwards. Now the game's on again. Like stuff like that, you got to be really cautious of. And I know that's been a lot of the meta recently has been trying to find ways to take advantage of centerline extracts. Aaron, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, everything you said is right. The game has become more killy with respect to the center line. It has become very easy to daze models who double move and sit on the center line. Whether Logan does it really well. He's going to roll 5 dice, Pierce with 2 rerolls. I just watched TTS Cuts game where Guardians used foreign assignment from Agent Venom to daze Beta Ray Bill on the center. Right, so he took 1 shot from, I forget, Star-Lord, and then Venom moves up, shoots him, plays for an assignment, just for the 1 shot, right? So he burned the card for 1 extra 7 dice attack, which is probably not wrong. Dazed Bill, okay? And now his opponent is starting the game, really, with a dazed model, and you're not. Like, that is a huge attrition advantage to be able to leverage.
And that's even if you don't get the extract and then
correct. This is just if you like, if it was just say intrusions, you double move to the center to sit on it. You now have a dead model. There are 1,000 ways you can do this. Malekith charging turn 1. Bottom line, the center line of this game has become more and more deadly to the point where it is right now. If your plan for extracts is to double move and pick it up, I think, competitively speaking, you are super wrong. So you should have a plan to grab the center extract and back up with it, whether it's X-Men Hop or the models you mentioned. There are lots of ways you can do it.
Yeah.
Angela ASM.
It's to the point now where like I won't even go to the center to get an extract with Toad unless there's terrain to hide behind, because he's just gonna die.
Right. Or
I've even started using my metal construct to give him cover. So because it's like there's so many times he's been one-shotted that I just like if you're just gonna put him out there, he's just gonna get one-shotted anyway.
Or Deception. Mystique is still splashed because Deception's a bullshit card. And even Toad just gets deceived in. It's really only the Thanos, Red Skull, Beta Ray plays that grab stuff and come back into Deception range. Or Grunts. Grunts help out with anti-deception. Anyway, I don't want to get into it too much, but bottom line, the center is dangerous. So you should have a safe centerline grab in your list. Because of that, you should also assume your opponent does too when you're picking your missions. So let's go back to Montesi. If I'm running reds, that means you got prio. I can assume that you're going to have that Montesi book on your back point. Like, I can't punish you for it because you're going to have a safe grab. Congratulations, you have a 2-1 lead starting off the game. That's bad. What about Spider Infected? I can probably assume that you're going to have a 3-2 lead because you're going to pick up the middle. And there's some shenanigans you can do with X-Men and Beast and Corvus Proxima and anyone who's a medium-based double-medium move. Without getting into those specifically, I think running those 3 centerline extracts of Montesi, Spider Infected, and Cubes is probably bad because you're giving your opponent a victory point lead for free.
Yeah. So people need to start viewing the center line as more of like a no man's land in a ground war. It's like, if you're going to go into that space, you need to have an exit strategy or some like actual plan other than just, I'm going to stand here, because you're just going to get it like right in the face. Like things are going to go sideways unless you have some strong way to defend your models. For example, like taking Gwen on the first turn is another good way to kind of get out of that a little bit. If you can either get her an extra power or play her with Steve, get like a lifesaver type component online early in the turn. You start thinking about backing up your models against Deception earlier in the turns. Yeah, it's very rough. So anytime you're choosing an odd number of extracts, specifically on the center line, you should expect to be going down on points. And so you need to have a strategy for how to get back up. Like usually that is take the fight to them kind of stuff, play like Portals or Asteroid M, at some point to go get in, scalpel out and extract and try and get away, or just start fighting them on their points.
Yep. Rhino has been super key for me. Like I said, I played against X-Men. They turtle on their back point with 2 extracts because I made all of these realizations too late in my, the past couple months, right? So I was playing Montesi when I shouldn't have been. Anyway, Rhino's like, okay, I see you, Storm. I'm going to come give you a big hug into turn 2. Like,
Yeah.
So play models that can do that. If all you're going to do is medium move with no action economy, it's probably going to be too little too late.
Yeah. All right. So with all that said, let's go back through these extracts and kind of group them into pods. So first off, let's talk about all the ones that have a single center line extract. So that's going to be Spider Infected, Struggle for the Cube, and Montesi. So these three only require your opponent to have one safe extract model to just completely go up on an uneven advantage with priority. And it's probably not going to have any way to get back from that. Is there anything you would put in that same group, Aaron?
No, those are three that I would generally exclude for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
There are teams I would take one or more of those in, but as a general rule, I would exclude those three.
Okay. So moving on, ones that have multiple centerline extracts. We've got Paranoia, Legacy Cure, Alien Ship, Hammers, and I guess Scrolls. Yeah, Scrolls.
Did you say Alien Core?
I did.
Okay.
So yeah, it's Alien Core and Legacy Cure are the two standard threes. Then we've got Hammers and Scrolls, and then Paranoia. Is there an extra one? Is that what you're freaking out about?
No, I'm just
okay.
making sure I got them all.
So for these five, you're basically just creating like a live war instead of a cold war, in my opinion. Is most people probably want to have enough safe extract models to get multiple of these and get away. So you're at least going to be able to punish some of their models to start that attrition battle earlier in the game with models like Rhino or Juggernaut or Logan, anyone who can attack the center line and threaten the center line on the first turn. If your opponent has two safe extract models, that's obviously going to be bad. That's going to be worse. But, you can only do so much. So,
yep. I really like Alien Core and Virus. They get one, I get one. And then, like you said, they probably can't get the third one for quote-unquote free. If they can, more power to them. We're no worse off than Montesi. At our worst case scenario. Best case scenario is we're fighting over the third one. Right. Hammers, we've talked about whether we like it or think it's fair or not.
Right.
Paranoia, you mentioned in the same grouping. I just dislike it because of how fast it scores. And the fifth one was Scrolls, which we've already talked about as being relatively fair and balanced.
I put it in the same group as Hammers.
Yep. So for this reason, I like
your opponent abuses Hammers, they're also going to abuse Scrolls. Yep.
I like running all of these five, except for Paranoia for reasons stated. But otherwise, I'm not opposed to the general inclusion of these in a generic list.
I think Hammers is the exception. I think Hammers should be in its own.
Okay.
Because it's so random?
Because some of the same tools that are used for centerline grabs can be used and abuse the shit out of Hammers. And it's a buff. It helps your opponent. If you don't have
walking into the guy with that has more hammers than you is bad.
Yeah, and they can make that happen pretty easy.
I put Hammers and Paranoia in the same group because they're both like basically the more dangerous versions of the other three, right?
I just think
I
just feel Hammers plays differently than all of them. I think Paranoia plays really fast. Hammers doesn't. It has a weird effect, and it also creates a crazy buff for your opponent's army.
Yeah. I don't think anyone should be playing either of those missions, so I agree with you, but I don't know that I agree with you for the same reason.
Yeah.
I think you have to have a strong argument as why you've put those two in your list over the other three.
Yeah.
I think the other three are all solid, fair-ish missions. Like, someone's going to be advantaged, but they're not going to be heavily advantaged.
Correct. Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Okay.
My three standard are Cubes, Virus, and Scrolls, so we agree.
Yeah. Why not Alien Ship over Cubes?
Sorry, that's what I meant. Sorry.
You meant the other three of this group of five.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now we're going to move into the what I like to call the quantity group, which is we're going to be Senators, Senators, Spider Infected, and Cubes. So these are all the high extract count ones. Two of them fall into the single centerline extract, which is bad. Generally. And then the Senators is usually a stay away for the problem of the bad matchup. But that being said, if you don't pull Brotherhood, it's probably fine. Kind of like playing pay to flips. It's probably fine as long as you don't play against X-Men. With the popularity of mutants right now, though, even because Brotherhood might not be the most popular affiliation, but they're up there a lot. So I think you should probably stay away from Senders for the time being, but that's my opinion. So I think all three of those are a don't take. And then pretty much the last one is just in a league of its own, which is Researcher, right?
Yeah. You should absolutely take Researcher if you want to fight.
Yes.
And you should absolutely leave it out if you don't.
Right. What Researcher will do is it will force a more important location of the table, kind of like Gamma does. Like Gamma forces people to the middle. You can put a couple people on the outskirts or on the back point, but basically 75% of your list is going to be in the middle of the board. And that's going to be true for the majority of the game. Researcher is going to accomplish the same thing. So if you're trying to avoid that, you should play, I think, the three in the previous group, which are what we called the fair group, which is Legacy, Alien Ship, and Scrolls. I know that some people don't like Scrolls. That's fine. You can pick another one, obviously. But my go-to are Alien Ship, Cure, and Researcher pretty much every list. Because you won't get heavily abused with gimmicks, or what I call gimmicks, but specific plays that are meant to take advantage of early game.
You also talked about, we talked about what to do when you find yourself down. Like, this is ways to avoid being put in a 2-1 or 3-2 hole. And we talked about models like Rhino. There are more models with steals in the game right now. And I think it is a good idea to have one in your roster. Because if Hulk has 3 cubes, and you look at the game state and say, I cannot win this game unless I down Hulk, and you look at your models and be like, yeah, that's not going to happen, you just lost the game. What if you were playing Miles or Rhino or Spider-Woman?
Rhino would be a better example, yeah.
Well, Miles makes you drop them.
Miles makes him drop, but he's got to pick them up right now.
Sure. I'm just saying.
That's harder. But yes,
well-laid plan.
I totally
there
agree.
Are many ways that you
answer.
can force a drop. I would
but
just have one of those.
In general, I think I lost Aaron. I guess what I was wanting to say was when it comes to identifying situations, like you should take a moment at the start of every turn, specifically the first turn, and look at who's going to score how many points each. And so try and work through yourself on what your opponent's plan is. Who's going to score, who's going to pick up which extracts, who's going to score which secures, what the final score of the round is going to be. And make the decision, is that okay? And sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. And when you recognize on a turn that that's not okay, like it's either gone on for too long, my opponent scored too many points, and I need to make a decision. I need to make that stop. I got to stop the bleeding. You need to be very proactive about making that plan and putting it into action. One of my recent games against one of our locals, Ryan, who I actually think is pretty good at the game, we got into a situation where I was playing an attrition heavy list, and he was playing a mildly attrition list, but it's more of like a go wide. And we got into a spot where I was I was scoring like 4-3 every turn. And on turn 3, he kind of looks at the board and goes, man, this is like not good for me. But then he like never adapted his plan, and we kind of just sat there while I just slowly scored to 16 on turn 4. And I was just like, it's like, I thought you were going to like come into me and like try and shake things. I was like, well, I wanted to, but like you didn't give me an opening. Like there was no spots on the table where I could really, like crack the egg and get in and like start doing some damage. And because he never like found that opening, he just never went for it. And so when you're down, like you're going to lose anyway. You might as well come up with a plan and try it. And in doing stuff like that, you'll start to learn what things are more likely to work and what things aren't likely to work.
I think everyone needs to look at the game after turn 1 and after turn 2. Usually at turn 3, you have to know where this game is headed. Like, you can start looking at it and 2 and be like, okay, am I up? Am I in the right spot? But usually turn 3, if you don't see this game playing out, like, you're probably about to lose. You got to have a plan.
Yeah. I think we've covered pretty well in the secure one which ones we liked and which ones we didn't and what we thought people should be playing. Do you think there's an obvious set of secures that pair well with most things, or do you think it's more diverse than extracts?
I do think there are 3 groups of secures. I think you have Killy, Control, and X-Men.
Fair.
Killy, go ahead.
So I was just thinking, if you wanted to approach this, I know you talked about this a little bit recently at the shop, and Jeremy, I think you mentioned this a bit earlier. if you are trying to break out of the norm, because the norm is take these specific 3 extracts, kind of, there's a small selection, but those are the 3 most popular, and then do one of the 2 secure pods that's not pay to flips. If we try and flip that and do what happens when you're trying to choose extracts when you get priority and trying to convince your opponent to take extracts when they win priority, and so basically like flip it around. Is there like a group that you can do that you think is more advantaged? Because I know we just talked for a while about how winning priority with some extracts is very strong. Can you do it to where you're trying to choose extracts?
I think go.
No, you go.
Go. I was just going to say I think it's possible, and I think you can do it. I like to actually do the opposite, which is make it so your extracts are so horrible, or your secures are so horrible that they choose the other one, and you get the one you want.
Yeah.
Like I like to do the extracts with the 5s. Most people don't enjoy playing that with the 5s. So if I'm really wanting my my secures, a lot of times I will do that. Or if I want to play extracts, I'll make sure that I have all of the stupid pay to flips. Because X-Men don't like all of the pay to flips. But you know, so you can kind of drive it if you want to.
I agree with what you said. A lot of people, especially the tallest, do not like playing the 5, especially Spider Infected. Like Magneto and Malekith, they just cannot pick one up. They can't afford to be out of place.
Yeah.
Perrin was running X-Men with Corvus Proxima on a extract-focused game plan, where he was running both Spider Infected and Cubes to be able to go up 4-1 using husband and wife shenanigans. So there are definite plays you can make, and I am intrigued to try to play more extract-focused teams. Because even though you want to, like I said, there's Killy control on X-Men for your secures. If your opponent gets prio, you're playing on theirs. So you may be building your team to be like a Steve Brick or Malekith Kill. Like, let's play all the E's in Cosmic, Intrusions. But you might get put on a D or Infinity Formula, and you have to have a plan in your roster to flex to the opposite secure paradigm that you don't want to play. So bottom line is, the secures are what you want to play, but you have to have a game plan to play on them all. So the more well-rounded your secure game plan is, you could really focus your extracts if you don't mind any of the secures. So I absolutely think an extract-focused game plan is viable and would be interested in trying to quote-unquote break it or be advantaged in that fashion.
Yeah. I think the key here, though, is that you need to kind of know what your list is about, like have an identity within your roster, and that will help you decide your scenarios that you want to play with. But most importantly, knowing which ones you generally want if you win priority, and knowing what your opponent is going to decide as well. So like Jeremy was saying, I'm going to take missions that my opponents don't want to play, which is going to kind of encourage them to pick certain stuff, which is basically what happens. Like, for example, when I play Brotherhood, I play the super fighty secures. Anyone out there seeing my secures when they win priority is going, well, I'm not playing against Brotherhood on those secures, so they pick their blues, which always results in me picking my reds, but my reds are picked assuming I'm going second. So it kind of, we both get what we want, right? Like, I'm getting my extracts, but my extracts are built to go second with. And then we kind of get this round robin where it's like, I know you know stuff. But the important thing is that you don't leave yourself the opportunity to get screwed over by getting stuck on a set of missions. Like, let's say Montesi going second, and you don't have a plan. It's like, well, you're just going down on points. And there's like, what happens when you pull like, Riots and Montesi without priority? It's like, well, you probably just lose that game. And it's like, there's not much you can do about it if you weren't planning ahead. And so I want to make sure that people out there are putting the thought in there that about the stuff we just talked about to try and avoid those trap situations. And as long as you have a plan going in, I think you should probably have good games.
Yep. Yeah, that's really good advice with if you know what you're trying to play and your opponent won't want that, and set your extracts up with the idea you're going second. Mm-hmm. That's a really good thought. I think I've automatically always done that, but I've never thought about it in that way.
We kind of did it accidentally with our play style because we generally play really tall. And really tall generally wants low scoring missions, and so
Yeah.
it just worked out that way. I had another point. Oh yeah, if you're going to build a dual affiliated roster, maybe build one that wants one set of missions. Like let's say X-Men. X-Men wants pay to flips, and they like to go first generally, but they don't have to. So if they get pay to flips, and then your secondary affiliation is a mission or a team that abuses reds really strongly, then if you lose priority and your opponent picks their blues and your reds, well, if you split your two affiliations to take advantage of both crisis pools, you're good to go either way. The only problem is when your opponent lines up and is just randomly good into your affiliation, and then also gets that mission pool.
The only problem I have with that thought is I don't know that you can abuse extracts going second ever.
Yeah, it's certainly harder.
'Cause I can design a team that would love to go first.
I'd say probably something like Worthier Scrolls would be the easiest one. How about just as a weird example, let's say you take Hulk with Malekith and you play Gamma Launch.
I'm done.
And you're just like, yeah, I don't care how safe you would think you are. Like, I'm coming to get you. But yeah, I think for standard, I think the best go second extract team is probably Spider Foes. Just because leveraging the trap can be so strong on some missions. Specifically like scrolls. I've seen you trap the opposing scroll and you can get yours, and if you can set it up in a way that you don't get pushed into your own scrolls, it's so annoying. It's just like, what do you do? Like, you can't even go to the middle of the table. It's very annoying.
Yep.
And also, if you have a center line secure, like intrusions on top of it, you can actually trap the middle intrusion, and then it's just like a nightmare. It's like everything is trapped. It's really funny.
Intrusions is hilarious to trap, because then you're like, well, I just want to move to this one over here. But if you roll bad, I'll send you over to the trapped one. Which also means that
and I get to put you in the middle. Yeah, it's really funny.
That means the Spider-Folk player also can't.
It's similar to when people put Logan on intrusion so that he can... If you don't have Toad.
No, Toad can't use it either. He's within...
Not if you trap the intrusion, yeah. Not that intrusion, but he can get to the extracts and stuff. But yeah, it's pretty funny. All right, well, I think we're going to probably call it there, unless you guys have anything else you want to talk about.
Nope, I'm good.
Cool. This has been Brandon.
Jeremy.
And Aaron.
And you've just listened to The Gang Extracts Some Victory Points.
So what are we going to call this thing?
I got it. Okay. Incredible, new, fantastic, astonishing, mighty, original, uncanny, sensational podcast.
I'm just going to put down infamous.
We did it.
Man, it feels good. Feels good to be back and doing it.
Does it?
I
Does doing it feel good?
As long as it's on the whole. Wait, is that the way the joke goes?
I think so.
Yep. Nailed it. So I watched, so Jen Ortega is like a big thing now, right? Like everyone, like Wednesday and whatnot. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. What?
The Netflix Wednesday show. You know anything about that?
I watched it.
Okay. So she's like everywhere. Like she's the hotness now. And
the girl who played Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay.
Her name's on everything, and every show wants her, and she's on all the talk shows and whatever. Regular TV. She's a thing. So I was like, okay, I'll watch Saturday Night Live. I'll see. Her name came up, and I'll watch it. I made it exactly 4 minutes in, and I fell asleep. End of story. Like, it's fucking terrible. No good. She wasn't special. I thought she was special.
I don't understand that. Like, that seems to happen a lot lately. Like the guy from Stranger Things, the cop, was in like, they tried to fucking put him in everything for like 2 years. Like, he was Hellboy. He was everything. Like, he's in the new Ghost movie. Like, it's like, yeah, he was fine in that role. Why are we doing this? Like, he's not like exceptional. Like, he's just a guy. Like, he's fine.
David Harbour, is that who that is?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was cool as like Red Guardian? Is that who he is? when he
Yes,
played.
he was
yeah,
fine as Red Guardian.
that was cool.
It feels like everyone's just like, it's like a lot of media nowadays is just regurgitating the same shit and attempting to succeed at things versus like actually just attempting to make something good.
Did you watch the
It's-
Kelsey one?
The Kelsey one,
Saturday Night Live with Kelsey?
I did not watch that.
That one's
I've
pretty
seen
funny.
a couple clips. I will probably eventually watch more of the clips, but I'm not really a Saturday Night Live guy.
Gotcha.
I watch a lot of the older ones, but I haven't seen a lot of the new stuff.
Yeah, I'm like panning for gold at this point. Every once in a while, something will pop up, a skit that's funny, but pretty rare.
Yeah. Hey, Jeremy,
Yes.
what do you call two birds that stick together? Velcros.
Nope.
No, that's not what you call them.
I think it's a murder. I think it's called a murder, actually.
I don't think that's what it is.
It's not. Okay. So what's our topic? Did we find a topic?
We're doing the extracts.
Okay.
Do you not want to talk about extracts?
No, it's fine.
Doesn't sound like he wants to talk about extracts, Aaron.
I think it's fine. He said it's fine.
Jeremy, what do you want to talk about?
Extracts.
Okay.
And I want to go in depth, as in we only talk about an extract per episode for the next 12 episodes.
I'm going to be honest. I felt like we could have gone deeper last time. I felt like we left some meat on the bone with the secure talk.
Well, we have to, we got to come back to it. We can pan we can pan that later.
Okay, it's round 3. We'll do it on
Round three. Yep. Every 2 years we'll do it.
I'm making it further through persons of interest. I met Agent Shaw.
Ooh, we like Agent Shaw.
Well, are you trying to imply that it's not just a one-shot character? Because she was only in one episode so far.
Oh. Cheers.
But she's also on, like, the cover shot, so I assume that's probably going to come back.
Yeah, she might.
I think I now know everyone on the cover of the fucking show page.
Sure. Are you in season 3?
No.
Okay.
Well, unless it changed over and didn't say anything. I think I'm like episode 15 of season 2.
I think there's a significant emotional event in season 3, and I think once that's done,
Mhm.
I think that's when the show starts to get a lot better.
Yeah. Root has been showing up in places, and I hate it because I think she's a terrible character, but moving on.
Okay.
There was one of the more... Go ahead.
I was going to say, remind me what that show is about. Like, what's the concept?
The concept is the guy who invented the NSA's like AI machine that keeps track of all the information that it gets through cameras and illegal surveillance and all that stuff. It recognizes threats to everything, including individual people. But the government only wanted a machine that could keep track of threats to the country.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically just write a script that tells it to delete the threats to individual people, just regular everyday people. And they only, because they're not allowed to review the information themselves because that would be spying.
Mm-hmm.
And so the machine recognizes threats and tells them who to look into. And then they do the actual surveillance themselves. So the guy who made the machine wrote like a secret backdoor algorithm thing where it sends him the information on the people who are in danger
Gotcha.
on a non countrywide level. So basically people who are about to get killed by like Hitman and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so he recruits this former Marine, like secret agent guy that's like out of the service to basically be his anti-Hitman guy, and they go around and try and save these people. And so they're completely unencumbered by any government agencies. They're just freelance people trying to help other people. And the guy who invented the software that the NSA uses to track these people is like a reclusive, eccentric billionaire type guy that's like really nerdy. And so they're just trying to help people. And so they eventually, make contacts and stuff that make their jobs easier. But so in the episode today with Root in it, she impersonates somebody and to try and interrogate some other person. So she it's stupid because I don't know. Maybe it's just that they got the wrong actress, but she just does not appear threatening in any way. And so you have this highly trained CII wet works agent in a room who's also a woman, but she's just like, she exudes like, I don't know, like basically the fact that she's dangerous in her gravitas, everything she does. And then Root is just this like random, like looks like office worker girl. And so in the scene, they're like, all right, well, we need her to overpower the obvious like assassin. And so the assassin just is scripted to look the other way, and she walks up behind her with a stun gun and hits her with the stun gun. It's like, we did it. It's like, this is so unrealistic. Like, it's so stupid. Why did she turn? Why did she let her walk up behind her and hit her with the stun gun? And then after she gets like tased, basically, she's paralyzed for like 3 minutes. I'm like, that's not how tasing works. Whatever. Like, trying to move past it. And then the worst part of the whole situation, she puts her in a chair, like a little wheelie office chair, and zip ties her to the armrests. But these aren't armrests. They're like looped. They're just like the freestanding pillar armrests. And so, like, there's just like 3 inches of rubber that she's zip tied to. And if she just pushes her hands forward, she'll be free. But because that's not the script, she doesn't do that. She's trapped in the chair while the girl takes a fucking like iron, like that you iron clothes with, and like presses it to her face. It's like, what is happening? Who fucking wrote this scene? And it's just like, oh no, I'm so trapped against this chair. And like the zip ties aren't even tight. They're loose and dangling around the loops on this. It's so stupid. Oh my God, I was so upset. I don't feel like I'm getting my point across. I'm actually going to get a screenshot from the video now. Well, no, because it'll take forever. I'll send you guys a clip of it.
The writers get better.
I don't think it's actually the writing. Like, the writing is not the problem. It's like the action writing, like specifically the screenplay stuff, where it's like, okay, well, how are we actually going to shoot this scene? Like, the script writing's fine. Like,
I don't know that this. Yeah, I don't know what you want to get better is going to get better. The actual story gets better, but yes,
well,
the cheesy
helps.
shit's always going to be cheesy.
Right, like that was hard to watch. Like, it was really hard to watch. It's like the movie The Room, where it's just like, when the acting is just so bad, it just pulls you out of the scene, and you're just like, okay, I can't. This doesn't work. Like, but the acting in the scene is fine. It's just like the action, like they don't know how, like they don't think about the little detail kind of stuff. Like there's several scenes in the show where like someone pulls a gun and it's clearly just a hard plastic gun because like there's no barrel. It's just a flat front of the gun. I'm just like, that's like a 30-cent prop, guys. Like, come on, this is a television show. Like I would feel bad. Like, just go buy an airsoft gun. It'd be at least be fairly close. That's like, what, $30? Oh my God. It's very annoying. I'm starting to, for a while I was getting happier with the main character. And now I'm going the other direction again. He's like the worst actor on the show.
That's never going to get better.
Yeah, I'm noticing that. Well, there was like some light at the end of the tunnel because he started showing some emotion. And I get that his character is supposed to be like this soft-spoken, like somber badass. But then like, and sometimes it works. But other times it's like, he's in like he only has the one gear, right? Like he's going to be soft-spoken and like stoic. But then he's soft-spoken and stoic in scenes where it just makes no fucking sense. He's like, they're in a firefight, and he's like whispering. I'm like, dude, we can't fucking hear you. Like, he's like, this would never happen. I like the smart guy on the show. He's a fine actor. Carter's actually pretty good. I like Fusco. Fusco's best episode so far. I can't remember there was an actual major plot point happening. And Fusco is like this, like semi-dirty police detective, right? Like he's definitely done some corrupt things in the past, but he's like trying to be better, and he works with them. So like he goes and does like side jobs to help them save people sometimes. But he's usually the guy they have to blackmail into doing stuff. And so he gets the message he's supposed to go protect this person. And he's like, I'm not doing this. This is, I got stuff to do today. Like, I can't be doing this. They send the picture, and it's like some like Norwegian supermodel. It's like, he's like, all right, you know what? I'm going to find some time. I'm going to get this done. So he goes to meet her, and she like beats the shit out of him. And so it ends up, they don't explain any of his plot in the whole show. It just keeps cutting back to them for like 30 seconds, and they're like in a firefight. And he's like, get down, I gotta protect you. And so it cuts back to the main show, and they don't explain anything that's going on. And but it's just like the fucking best part. Because he just like, at the end of it, he like, she kisses him and he like walks away, and she's like, call me. And he's like the windswept. He's like, this is too stressful. I can't do this. It's great.
I haven't been watching anything lately. Been catching up on all my podcasts.
Yeah, I didn't watch for like almost a week. I watched a lot when I was doing all the video editing.
I've been catching up on a lot of the new Married at First Sight, and also a new Survivor show on Netflix. Not Survivor, but a wilderness survival show that is amazing.
I'm sorry.
TV
I hate you.
TV is for entertainment purposes alone, so
I hate you.
it's delicious.
Did you say Married at First Sight?
Oh yeah, it's the best. It's watching.
I'm going to assume that this is some kind of reality show.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
100%.
So your two shows that you're watching are a dating reality show and a survival reality show.
No, they're not. It's not dating at all. They're married. First Sight. It's watching two trains collide, and it's amazing.
Jeremy's
I would, if you were like that, what was that family swap show where it's like the moms or the dads swap, like
Oh, God.
the parents swap? Like,
Yeah.
I could understand you watching that as a parent because that's a literal train wreck, right? It's like you start parenting other people's kids and they start parenting your kids and you just see what happens. Like,
Yeah, I'm like, basically, it always, to me, it's like Match.com, except it's permanent. You know, like, you swipe right and you have to marry them. I'm like, well, this is insane. Who fucking does it? I don't know. Put it on TV and let Jeremy watch it. I will watch it. Like, you have at least one viewer. Like, that's all I know, because I'm fucking watching that shit.
trying to figure out how to audition.
I've already told Heather that if something happens to her, the first thing I'll do is go on those shows and then ask for sympathy because my girlfriend died. And it's going to be the best season. So I already have full permission if she dies. Like, I'm not going to be haunted or anything. It'll be fine.
I was like, why do you need permission if she died? And then you're like, because of her ghost. I'm
Because
like,
I'll be haunted. Yeah,
that would be, you should actually get unpermission because that would just make the season better.
that's
Like,
true.
like Jeremy, his girlfriend just died. He immediately came on the
Yeah.
Married at First Sight show, and he's being haunted by a ghost.
Also,
Like, that's like
haunted.
a whole new level to reality
Oh.
show because that's the other like shittiest reality show genre is ghost reality shows.
That's probably the only one I don't watch of the garbage that's on TV. Like, I just can't do that one because I just don't believe. Like, I don't believe it.
Well, yeah,
Like, I just don't. It's like a cartoon. I'm like, I don't get it. But watching people fuck up their lives on TV, the best. It's the best. I'm like, this is like Jerry Springer, except now it's better.
If I thought any of that was not scripted, it'd be hilarious.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the producers are all over the place and fucking with it, and
But-
like, it's so instigated and bullshit. Absolutely.
yeah. The problem with a lot of the reality shows is they don't get actors. That's the whole problem, and so like it's really shitty.
Like, I can deal with whatever you want to call like reality competition shows. Like, I think
Mhm.
those are actually kind of interesting, like Iron Chef and even Survivor. It's a reality show, but the contestants are not playing roles. They're cast for certain
Even
roles.
if it's scripted, they're honest.
I don't believe it's scripted. But like Big Brother or Housewives of X, like, no thank you.
hmm No, I just never got into those. I mean, it's right along the lines of the same kind of shit. I don't know how I missed it, but yeah, whatever. I think, like, when I got divorced and, like, one of the weird ass outlet side effects was I started watching the garbage relationship TV. I just think that was just one of those kind of, like, spill off things that happened to me. I never used to watch them. It's just weird.
I really want to tell Jeremy this one, but I think he might actually just disconnect for the night.
I'm always like, I have it clicked, right? And I just never hit it.
Mhm.
I always have my cursor
It's like
right on
he's
the
just
hang up.
hovering over the disconnect.
Yeah,
button.
oh yeah, I'll hang up at any second. Like, that's the only way I can stand this. I'm like, what is he saying? I can always disconnect when I need to. It's my safety.
All right. I feel like I've been letting everybody down because we've been really short on the dad jokes lately. We've just had so much content that we haven't had
That's
time to like do stuff like dad jokes.
That's true. Get them out of your system. We'll be okay.
All right. So if somebody is born Nicholas and they were named Nicholas, but they ask people to call them Nick, is that their nickname?
That's awful.
You didn't like that one? I thought you would like that.
I thought it was going to have to do with money. You did get me off the side. I thought it was going to something about a dime or something. I don't know.
Oh, right. I was like,
Nicholas. Yeah. I thought that's where I went.
And that's why you never see him coming.
I didn't. I got sideswiped. I'm completely just jaw hit the floor on that one for sure.
All right. Are you guys ready to start?
Sure.
All right. Let's do this.
Nice.
Yep. Not too bad considering the amount of technical issues we had.
Some of us.
Some of us.
You have accrued a certain number of demerits today for your lack of technology.
I actually thought
I deny
Jeremy.
your demerits.
I actually thought Jeremy was going to be the problem because Jeremy kept freezing on my screen, but I could hear him. But his visually, he would just lock up and sit there, and I didn't know if I couldn't hear him. And then I actually lost Aaron, and that was like, oh, shit.
No, so I'm remembering I got some sort of email from Spectrum saying they were gonna shut off my internet. I didn't think that was tonight.
That was good to know in advance with like a notification.
Let me go to deleted. Oh, I can't because my internet's down.
Let me check my email. Oh shit!
I could check it on my phone, but it's in a good spot right now. So.
All right. Well, we're already well over on time, so we could probably just call it here.
Good.
But, I'll see you guys at the shop tomorrow.
Yes.
Not 100% sure I'll come in. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, goodbye, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Peace.
Bye.